Part 4.
You will hear the beginning of a lecture about turkey farming. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning, everyone. Ever since it was first served and eaten at the wedding feast of Charles XI of France and Elizabeth of Austria way back in 1570, the consumption of turkey meat has continued to grow. In recent years, the popularity and subsequent interest in turkey farming has also grown substantially, and along with this interest, there have been a number of significant changes which have occurred in turkey production, which I'd like to point out to you all. In some of the larger companies in the UK, understanding of genetics has been used to good effect, with selected stock showing an increase in growth rate and a higher proportion of lean white breast meat. Turkey breeding companies operating from the UK have achieved an important position in the European market, as well as having a part of the market share in the USA. Knowledge of the nutrient requirements of turkeys has also advanced, and diets to exploit the genetic potential for rapid growth have been formulated with great precision. Canada and North America have led the way in this area. Different feeding strategies are employed within the industry to control the nutrient intake of breeder flocks. These management techniques usually involve limiting the availability of feed, especially to the older males. The intention is to slow down growth rate, thus reducing the likelihood of leg disorders and to maximise breeder production. Throughout the world, the most serious infectious diseases that have impacted upon turkey health are now almost entirely controlled due to improvements in site hygiene and the introduction of live and killed vaccines. In addition, the geographical isolation of turkey growing farms remains an important means of limiting the spread of disease. Now, throughout the USA and Britain, controlled environment housing now operates with greater precision since the ventilation requirements of the stock are better understood. Approximately 90% of the birds in the UK, for example, are produced in large flocks on commercial sites which require precise control of temperature. Feeding and drinking systems have been increasingly mechanised in order to improve efficiency and to ensure that the birds receive adequate fresh feed and water. Equipment such as artificial lighting is also used to overcome the long winters in some of the more extreme areas of the world. While quite popular early on, a vast majority of turkeys are no longer beak trimmed. However, in most cases where birds are kept in natural daylight, the beaks are usually trimmed when the birds are only a few days old. Now, the turkey industry can be divided into three main categories: primary breeders, breeders, and producers. The primary breeders maintain and develop the quality of the genetic stock within the population by selection of the most suitable individuals. Primary breeders sell parent stock to breeders either as hatching eggs or as turkey chicks, which, by the way, are commonly referred to as poults. General characteristics that are important to the health and welfare of the birds are taken into account in breeding. Things such as the ability of the birds to walk without difficulty, reproductive ability, growth and conformation are all key considerations for breeders. Breeders multiply their growing stock by mating parents bought from the primary breeder. A breeder rears the male and female parents from hatching eggs or poults, selecting the best of them to go on to produce fertile eggs from which the growing stock will be hatched. Breeders sell commercial growing stock. Turkey producers can be divided into two groups: relatively large companies whose farms produce turkeys all year round, and relatively small companies and farmers whose farms produce turkeys primarily for the seasonal market. The non-seasonal producers account for approximately 90% of the output of the UK industry and are dominated by three major companies. The seasonal producers account for the remaining approximately 10%. The busiest time of year for producers, large and small, is clearly the October to December quarter.
That is the end of part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to part 4. That is the end of the listening test.